Hello and welcome to Match Point here on ESPN Cricinfo. It's day 3 of the first test between India and the West Indies, and India in a commanding position, a lead of 120 runs as we enter day 3. We've been bringing you Match Point for the last 2 days. We'll continue to do so today, and the man of Match Point is right here with me, Sanjay Manjrekar. Looking forward to day 3.
Yes, and tremendous performance by the Indians, because when you look at the West Indies' first inning score, you'd think that this lead is quite significant, and full credit to the two young men, Ashwin, Rohit Sharma playing spin beautifully, and once, they got in, the West Indies bowling depth, their overall ability started getting exposed. But having said that, that lead might come to nothing if Chris Gale fires in the second innings. So it's not all so easy for India. Yeah,
it's going to be a crucial first session for the West Indies to try and bundle India over, so they give a Chris Gale cameo or a Chris Gale blitz some kind of chance. Let's give you a recap of what the match looks like. India, of course, bowled first after West Indies won the toss in day 1. Entered yesterday at 37 without loss. Rohit Sharma is the standout performance of that match card. Came in at 82 for 4, put on 127, 100 on debut. And Ravichandran Ashwin with more than able assistance, 92 of 148. Credit that Rohit got that 100 not just on debut but coming in at a difficult time. 82 for 4, Sanjay, adds more value to it, doesn't it?
And what a month he's having at the international level. A double 100 in the 50 overs match in the last international innings. And this, and just about, not just about runs, we talked about it yesterday as well. He looked very much like a guy who belonged there. It was like, this is more the natural game for me than T20 and 50 overs cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. The West Indies, on the other hand, Shane Shillingford was their man who set the tone of the day. Probably would have lifted the spirits of the West Indians. 4 wickets in that first session, including that of Sachin Tendulkar. The fact is that he bowled well. The call would have been a touchy one, but he completely bamboozled the Indian batsmen. But as Sanjay pointed out yesterday, they just lost that little bit of energy to the West Indies after lunch, and Rohit Sharma and Ashwin did a lot to do the sucking of the energy out of the West Indies. But yes, Rohit Sharma was our man, and if you did watch the Stumps show of Match Point last evening, you pretty much be able to answer any quiz on Rohit Sharma for the rest of your lives with any reasonable memory. But let's hear about Rohit Sharma. Let's take a look rather at what Rohit Sharma said after the day's play yesterday, the post-match press conference. Now this is interesting, Sanjay. He says runs don't come so easily in tests. You must have seen I only played 150 balls to get a 200 in that ODI, but here I've played 200 something to get 127. Now we know he's coming into this test match after that fantastic series, and specifically that final innings, shows a good sense of maturity and understanding that he values this test innings more.
And, you might talk about modern day cricketers, caring more about the IPL, T20 cricket and things like that. But I think somewhere deep down they know that test cricket is the ultimate test. Yeah. And you could be a guy who's played 201 days, but when you walk into a dressing room and it's filled with successful test cricketers, that guy will feel a bit inferior. Yeah. He may not admit it, but he'll feel inferior. It's a bit like, when you look at vocalists, there are those very accomplished vocalists, and there are those pop singers.
There's one here also.
At
some point, if we ever get the chance, I'll
I'm the other half, where these are popular singers. Yeah. People recognize them, they mob them, and they know him as a singing star. But if there is a classical singer, accomplished, vocalist walking in, that man who's a star also will go and touch his feet, because they know finally these are the guys who have withstood the test of the highest kind. And that's what happened to Rohit Sharma. And when he, raised his bat, that emotion that he must have felt, it wasn't so much, just ecstasy and things like that. It must have been of tremendous satisfaction and pride. I've done it. I've got a test 100. And I'm sure that must be the greatest moment. He would want to say that there are a few other moments in the IPLs and things like that. But I'm sure deep down he feels this is the one, because this earns the respect of the people that matter in the dressing room.
And the first test match 100 is always something that every cricketer takes back to. And most cricketers remember their first 100 without doubt. Some of them had, the unfortunate nature of having just the 100. That's a special memory for you as well. The first 100, something you won't forget?
Yes, the first 100, and mine came in the backyard of West Indies, so that felt good. Yeah. But my debut wasn't that memorable. But lots of Indians, got hundreds on debut. I think there are 14 of those. So it's something that Indian batsmen do pretty well in their first test match.
Yeah, so that is something that we're going to focus on today, and we're going to bring in Sanjay Manjrekar with a few little remembrances of those debut hundreds. So let's take a look at those debut hundreds. 14 Indian batsmen have scored 100 on debut, Rohit Sharma being the 14th. That's an interesting list. Of course, if you look at the top 4, 5, you'd remember Shikhar Dhawan and Suresh Raina from recent memory. Then we go to Virender Sehwag, which is also something that people would remember, considering it was in South Africa, at number 6. Then the interesting too, Sourav Ganguly is a known story, you know, it's written in a number of books, you've seen it in archives. That gentleman just after Sourav Ganguly, someone that Sanjay Manjrekar knows from his Bombay days, Praveen Amre is somebody who scored 100 on debut, and you take a look at the venue at Durban in 1992. To score 100 at Durban on debut takes quite something, but not many of us remember this innings, Sanjay, of Praveen Amre. I must really ask you, tell us a little more about Praveen Amre, the person, and how that century at Durban came into being.
First of all, the memories that I have of Durban is it was the fastest pitch that I batted on in my international career, and everybody else felt the same. I think India just managed to get over 200 runs, and this guy got 100 on debut. So I picked out this innings to talk about because this innings is an innings that people will forget easily. Praveen Amre is not a character in Indian cricket that keeps coming to your mind, you know. So I picked out this innings. I felt that the challenge for a debutant was the toughest, one of the toughest. We've seen 14 debut hundreds. That this could be one of the toughest challenges because, as I said, on a Durban pitch against a good attack, 3 quick bowlers and alien conditions, India under pressure, 4 wickets gone for nothing, and this guy comes in and gets 100. And the interesting thing about Amre in that innings, I remember, is he's a guy who liked to get onto the front foot a lot. So there were occasions when he would sort of go onto the front foot like this, and there would be a short ball coming, and he would sort of go like this. So here's Alan Donald running in and bowling short on a bouncy pitch, but Praveen Amre had his front foot well down the pitch, and from there he would go like this. So it was amazing with that technique. He got that 100. And when he was in the 90s as well, I remember it was about 98 or something, and finally he got a left-arm spinner to bat against. And they had a very strong offside field for him. And Amre would not stay in the crease for a spinner. You know, from ball 1, he was a compulsive, we've seen compulsive hookers. He was a compulsive step-out guy to spinners. He couldn't play the spinners from the crease. And Omar Henry kept fighting the ball. He kept on stepping out and driving straight to the fielders. There was one over where he did that, I think, 6 times. Didn't get a run, still in the 90s, but stepping out, driving hard straight to the field, and we were all getting tense. You know, probably find another way of getting that.
He kept the pavilion entertained.
And eventually got that 100. And what a satisfying feeling that must have been, because all others, including Tendulkar, were all gone. And here's Praveen Amre, man from Shivaji Park, another Archrekar boy, getting 100 in extremely difficult conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were difficult conditions, like Sanjay said. It's Durban. A lot of Indian batsmen don't like playing at Durban. And considering it was a good bowling attack, Alan Donald, Brian McMillan made his debut in that test as well.
A guy called Brett Schultz. Not too many people remember him, but he was also one of the quickest bowlers that I faced. He played for a very short time. Well, boy,
and you think on his test debut it'd be the fastest. One thing that I'd ask you just before we take a look at that list again and get your thoughts on another very special 100 on debut is why Praveen Amre's career never really took off never really blossomed. You know, 100 on debut at South Africa, you think he's got the making to make hundreds anywhere. What happened?
I think this game is pretty, honest, sometimes cruel. So if you're not good enough, it will show you up. And I thought ability-wise there were few chinks in his armor. But what was interesting and which worried me instantly, that he got that 100 and it was all about grit and determination. I think the strike rate must have been 20, 30 or something. In those days, runs weren't scored as quickly.
Correct.
But he got that confidence of the 100, and we watched him in the nets after that, on that tour. He was trying to smash everything out of the ground, out of sheer confidence that I've got 100 against, one of the most difficult bowling attacks. And I'm thinking, what is he doing? Because that 100 was not so much about attack. It was more about grit, patience, determination. And maybe after that 100, he perhaps may have over-attacked. Who knows, But yes, this game shows you up. If you're not good enough, your career won't be long enough.
Yeah, all right. So, let's take a look at somebody's career who was definitely long enough from that list. Sourav Ganguly scored 131 at Lord's in the year 1996, and we all remember a number of images. That's footage that we've seen often, Sanjay, and you've got to start talking. Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Ganguly's got an aura even in a still image, and there's a lovely little backdrop. It sums up Rahul Dravid as well. We applaud. Yeah, absolutely.
2 debutants. The other one in the background missed it.
Just missed it. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Sourav Ganguly, because this is of course going to interest people.
Before he got that 100, because after that, everything is documented about Sourav Ganguly. Well, this is 96.
Correct.
I saw him the first time in 1990 when we had this camp in Bangalore, where we are right now. And it was just before the tour of England. Bishan Singh Bedi, the coach, the hard man, and we had this training camp where about 25, 30 probables came. And we saw this guy and nobody recognized. I mean, who is this guy? And somebody said he's Saurav Ganguly from Bengal. And has he played any first-class cricket? Yeah, a few matches. I think he got a 50 or 2 here. So what is he doing in an Indian team camp? And then we understood, somebody said, no, the Bengal lobby these days is very strong, so they've pushed this guy in. So immediately, how we are thinking, okay, this guy has come in through some influence. And he got a little bit of ragging, but not the kind you get in universities. But he obviously wasn't welcome. Come, Saurav, because we felt, this is a guy who doesn't deserve to be here. The rest of us felt, we worked hard, we've got the runs, we deserve to be here. But as it stands out, this is the thing about cricketers. If there's a good cricketer, they'll acknowledge it, even if they don't like him or whatever. And then Saurav Ganguly got his stints in the nets in that Bangalore camp. And all of us felt, this guy is not a bad player. And the first thing that stood out for us was that he had time. Even in the nets against the fast bowlers, who are generally quicker than they are in the match. He just had time to play them. And then we changed our opinion about him. Said, yes, maybe undeserving at this stage to be here, but this guy can bat. And that happened in 1990, 6 years before he made his mark.
Yeah, but there was a little time, like you said, between 1990 and 1996. 1992 was when Saurav Ganguly made his debut. Very few people would remember this. This is in a World Cup game in 1992 at Brisbane against the West Indies. It was a one-off game. And took off after that, didn't show up for a little while. But I must ask you, there were a few questions regarding Saurav Ganguly's attitude initially. Not too many people know about how the reception to Ganguly was in the early days. What can you tell us a little about that?
I thought it was more about his personality. And I think at that time the culture was such that people didn't expect a young man to voice his opinion. He's a very confident man, Saurav Ganguly. Even at that time, 1992, he must have been, 19 years old. He was sharing a room with Dilip Vengsarkar. One of the veterans of Indian cricket. And Dilip Vengsarkar is a close friend of mine. And he would tell me that, in that room, it was Saurav Ganguly who would do all the talking and Dilip Vengsarkar would do all the listening. Even at that age, he was telling Dilip Vengsarkar how Bengal cricket can improve and what they need to change and all that. So that personality of Saurav Ganguly was there and he behaved like that. And I think, as I said, the culture at that time was all about youngsters getting up in the chair the moment a senior player walked in. This guy was different.
You think he is different? He ended up being quite different. I think all that came out in his personality as he played for India. So that's two little anecdotes from Sanjay Manjrekar, remembering debuts on 100, Praveen Amre and Saurav Ganguly. And in a list
one thing, sorry to interrupt you, but before that 96 100 that we just saw the celebrations, that tour, 96, when he was picked, he obviously had matured from 1990, 6 years of first-class cricket. But the first warm-up games that we played, it was the first half of the English summer. So difficult conditions, cold conditions, and a lot of us were getting used to, the bowlers and the different conditions. And there was this match at Hove, Sussex, and bowlers were getting the ball to swing around, and Saurav Ganguly comes in and bats beautifully, has got no issues. I think he got a big score there in the nets as well. Everyone, getting beaten in those lively English pitches nets. And Ganguly was perfectly at home. And Ajay Jadeja, who I rate very highly for his study of the game, and he said, this guy is going to make it big on this series. He's just that kind of scenario, he's just destined to have a good series because one is his inclusion in this team has been debatable, but just the way he's batting and his 100, which eventually happened, I'll tell you, didn't surprise a few of us because we saw those signs in the warm-up matches.
Yeah, absolutely. So as he suggested, Sanjay Manjrekar, Ajay Jadeja said he's going to make it big, and we know how big he ended up making it. Sure. So yeah, a little remembrance of Saurav Ganguly and Praveen Amre as centurions on debut in a list that you don't remember too many. You keep going down towards the bottom. Hanuman Singh, Asif Ali Beg, Kripal Singh. So these are players in 1952, 53, 55, well before both the gentlemen's time over here on this show at Match Point.
1933 as well.
Absolutely, 1933, right down.
You know about the Indian cricket curse, right? About the debut.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Tell us what's synonymous with 10 out of 14 people in that list.
There are 14 players there, and out of which only 4 have managed to go on to get the second Test 100.
Yeah. And if you look at that list, barring Gundappa Vishwanath, who broke that curse when he got a second 100 after his debut 100 at Kanpur in 1969, nobody else managed it. And of course, Shikhar Dhawan and Suresh Raina also enjoy that same company until they get another one. You think at least two of those top three would go on and get another 100? And yeah, it's a good list. Do you think Rohit Sharma will score more, won't he?
Yes.
He wouldn't be part of that curse.
So with Shikhar Dhawan as well. I don't know whether Suresh Raina will get a chance quickly. But yes, interesting that G.R. Vishwanath, in the 70s, was the first guy who went on to get a second 100 after a debut 100. Until then, if you got a 100 in your first match, it was looked at as a curse that's it. You're not going to play more for India because you're not going to get another 100 because that was the track record. So
that's the best way to ensure a sustained career and plenty of hundreds. Just don't get one on debut, unless of course you're Sachin Tendulkar or Saurav Ganguly or with skill of that level. Yeah, so that's what we've got for you on the Centurions and on debut. And like Sanjay mentioned, you'd hope Suresh Raina would get a chance, but the reason he's probably going to wait a little longer now is because India's man Rohit Sharma has got a 100 on debut, which is pretty much assured him a place for a little while in the Indian team. And another person who, by virtue of that, will stay out of this Indian teams, and we've spoken about this, Sanjay, and we're getting a lot of feedback on social media. I think everyone is just sympathizing and showing a lot of love for Ajinkya Rahane. A cricketer that you know, who comes from Bombay, again from that Bombay school, like Rohit Sharma, and who will stay out. Now, one interesting thing we must talk about with regard to Ajinkya Rahane is how his first-class performances have gone up and down ever since he made his international debut. That is his one-day international debut. He started off in T20 cricket in the tour of England. But tell us a little bit about how Ajinkya Rahane performed at the first-class level, consistent, similar to Rohit Sharma, and then suddenly there was a drop in form after the international level. Strange.
Yeah, I think we've got some very interesting figures on that. I mean, the average to start with before he played for India is mind-boggling because this is incredible. And you're talking about 79 innings. I'm guessing there are about 1800s there in that performance. So he's a guy who is knocking on the doors very hard. He's sort of a guy, get me in by sheer weightage of runs.
And then if you just turn to after he made his international debut, 2011 against England at Old Trafford, 1,000 runs in 26 innings, significant amount of time. And he averages 42, which a lot of people, like I've said before, a lot of great Indian players say 42 in Indian first-class cricket is not as good as you might think in one-day cricket.
26 innings is not a little passage.
What can we get from that? It's so strange. He just makes his debut in limited overs cricket. Suddenly the first-class career drops.
It's a bit like Rohit Sharma. Indian Mumbai selectors saw Rohit Sharma as a future test batsman.
Correct.
And then he got an opening in T20, excelled at that, 50 overs cricket, excelled at that, and the test debut happened yesterday. With Ajinkya Rahane, it's the same thing. Mumbai didn't believe that we are producing another T20 or 50 overs batsman, but because that middle order of India in test match cricket was packed, these guys had to make their entry through T20 and 50 overs cricket. Rohit Sharma was able to keep that test game intact. I have observed, not just by looking at the numbers, I've said it on air as well in commentary, that Ajinkya Rahane is not the same batsman he was 2 years back before he started playing for India. Because of IPL, T20, 50 overs cricket, you tend to sort of corrupt your test game a bit. That's one of the disadvantages. And don't forget, he got one chance at Firozshah Kotla against Australia, and he didn't look convincing.
And that's as many chances Rohit Sharma got.
Then Rohit Sharma would not have played this match. Rohit Sharma got the one chance, and what he did with it.
Yeah, you've got to sympathize with Ajinkya Rahane. Sorry, at the end of the day, he's been travelling with this Indian side a number of places. Yeah, how much first-class cricket would he have got consistently?
Correct.
Even right now, he's probably in the reserves when the Ranji Trophy season is resumed. So yeah, you've got to think about it. We feel for Ajinkya Rahane, but he'll have to wait a little longer for his place in the Test squad. So that's all we'll talk about as far as batting is concerned. Let's start something slightly different on match point, and let's put the expert a bit on the spot. Sanjay Manjrekar would take great pride in knowing his cricket and knowing his facts. But there's an interesting character in this Test match as well. The second batsman who has performed for India in this first innings, and that is Ravichandran Ashwin. And Ravichandran Ashwin enjoys the distinction of having a stat or sharing a unique figure which he only shares with one other person. That being, he averages more than 40 with the bat and less than 30 with the ball. That's of course with a minimum of 600 runs, 95 wickets to ensure that we don't get anyone in who's not played too much cricket. There are just two people. One is Ravichandran Ashwin, Sanjay. Let's put you on the spot, and I'll go down to you on air. I'll do what we do to Tendulkar if you can give me the second person. And Sanjay doesn't know this. We've not discussed this before we've gone on air.
And you're talking about this person being in this current team, or no?
In the history of cricket.
averaging more than 40
Yes,
with the
Test
bat.
cricket, yeah.
And minimum number of Test matches was how much?
You've taken about 600 runs there and 75 wickets. Okay, I'll give you one hint. South African. Now you can try
40 with the bat and less than 30 with the ball.
And it's far from the obvious, Sanjay. If I say South
give up,
Africa. All right, give up. So it's not Jack Callis when I said South African. It was a gentleman by the name of Aubrey Faulkner. Any recollection, Sanjay, of Aubrey Faulkner? No. Okay, Aubrey Faulkner played back in the early 1900s and born in South Africa, made his debut against England. Back then, South Africans born in South Africa played for South Africa against England and not the other way around. But so that's a stat that Aubrey Faulkner and Ravichandran Ashwin enjoy together. I can metaphorically put my money, safely say Ravichandran Ashwin has no idea that he shares this feature with Aubrey Faulkner. But that's a little something that Rajesh pulled out for us, and Sanjay was trying. We'll keep putting Sanjay on the spot, but he'll probably try to do better the next time. And the other thing, of course, we've been getting your questions as well pretty often, and we do continue sending them in. We're getting fastly approaching the first ball of day 3 at the first test at Eden Gardens. Yeah, and let's quickly take a look at the match card, the match summary and how things stand. India 354 for 6 at the end of day 2. Rohit Sharma and Ravichandran Ashwin sharing a partnership of 198 for the 8th wicket. Ashwin fast approaching his yet another 100 against the West Indies. He loves batting against the West Indies as Ravichandran Ashwin. Rohit Sharma with his debut 100, which we've spoken enough about. The West Indies, lots to do, lots to think about. And quickly, if I can just ask you, Sanjay, important for them to knock these last 4 wickets quickly. Otherwise, this game is gone.
And that opportunity comes right at the start of the day when the batsmen are also sort of starting off fresh. And the pitch also tends to have a little more for the bowlers as well as spinners. Not just the seamers, the spinners as well. But as I said, I'm just worried about that one guy in that West Indian batting lineup in the second innings, because he's got a record where he scores in spurts. He's not a guy who'll get a big score every second innings. But suddenly when he gets a big one, it's generally a big one. Chris Gayle, 150 when he came back, after a long time. And he's got 2 triple hundreds. So if India get Chris Gayle out early, then you can look at, India winning this test match and wrapping it up a lot quicker.
So interesting to see how that goes. We'll come back to you at lunch here on Match Point, of course, and the West Indies will have a lot to do. Do send in your questions. Like I said, hashtag is Match Point, and you can send them in on Twitter, and Sanjay Manjrekar and myself will be back at lunch to answer as many of them as we can get. Enjoy the cricket. We'll see you at lunch. Thank you for watching Match Point. Bye-bye.